What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where I, Kyle, from Kyle Curtin Real Estate, interview local top dogs in the real estate investing, wealth building, and personal finance industries. Let's build together. What's up, guys? In this first of two-part episode, there is a ton of really valuable info for anyone looking to get into the short-term rental and Airbnb/VRBO space. Jason shares his unbelievable stories and valuable tips from his experiences purchasing and running his multiple Airbnb properties, especially through the waves of the pandemic. Jason's story was extremely interesting to listen to, and in our chat, we explore how he acquired his first property, learning how to manage it and solve some intense problems that came up, and how he was forced to adapt to a surprise pandemic. There are lots of very valuable principles in this episode, and I hope you enjoy. Let's jump right into the episode. Welcome to episode 21 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, I have the great pleasure of interviewing Jason Muth, a part-time short-term rental real estate investor with a few properties in Massachusetts. Jason, I'm very happy to have you on here. What's going on, man? How is everything going?
It's going great. Having a great day. It's nice and snowy and cold outside. So, typical New England February.
Oh yeah, of course. We've had quite a bit recently. Quite a bit coming too.
Yeah, you say you're a little chilly yourself. So I'm in a nice warm room though, even though I'm up on the top floor of our place. We have heat up here zoned separately, so it's always nice and toasty up here.
Of course. They can't beat it. So to jump right into things, Jason, what kind of got you into real estate? What's kind of your backstory? If you could just kind of tell me a little bit about, what got you into everything.
Sure. So, I don't do real estate full time. I've been connected to it, much of my life, actually. My father was a real estate appraiser and agent as one of his jobs growing up. But, I've worked in the media my whole life, and I work with digital marketing. I work with media research. Like, I've just kind of done that for longer than I care to admit. And I really do wish I found real estate investing earlier. But everyone finds it at the right time in their lives. It's such an interest, not like I'm not interested in what I do for my full-time job, but the real estate side is, it's a great side hustle for me, I think. I'm married to a real estate broker, and an attorney. So, I'll plug his place later on, but, we're around it a lot. So I speak the language. I think that I got a little lucky like years ago when I bought my first place here in Boston, and I picked South Boston 18 years ago. And, there was a wave of redevelopment that was happening back then when all the triple deckers were getting purchased and renovated and sold off as condos. I remember, I'm never going to be a lifelong Southie person. Like, ask anybody from here, and I'm a newcomer, obviously, but I have been here for a while. And I remember back when parking was really not that much of an issue in South Boston. Like, when I first moved here, there was very little residential parking besides near the T-stops, and parking was never really a problem. But then, the neighborhood got overdeveloped, not just with single family triple deckers or 3 apartments becoming 3 condos. A lot of buildings were getting knocked down, and larger giant buildings were getting put up in those buildings. So it became the neighborhood that it is right now. It just continues gaining in popularity. And I just got lucky. My agent was based here in Southie and thought I'd like it. So, I bought a place. Really didn't think much of real estate back then. You're just now paying a mortgage and, kind of paying yourself instead of paying rent. But when I went to go sell that place, and I realized how much it appreciated 10 years later, and we bought the place that we're in right now. We've been here for almost 7 years, and it was a new building. I started to see some bigger dollars, and I was like, this is actually interesting that, a way that I could accumulate wealth is, far beyond just the job that I have and, the money that they pay me where I work. So, I just kind of filed that away, and fast forward a couple of years after we bought this place, and we were up in New Hampshire at a lake called Baxter Lake. It's in Farmington, New Hampshire, it's basically at the border of Rochester and Farmington. So it's not like a destination that people go to, but the lake is a destination, and it's always kind of been a second home community. Some people do live up there full time. And we saw a place for sale, and it was down the street, and places weren't flying off the shelves like they are today. And that's when short-term rentals were starting to get bigger. And I said, we can give this a shot. I think that if we were to buy this place and put some additional value into it, because we saw some opportunities to improve it and give it a shot on Airbnb, I think it's going to be successful. Plus, we'll have a second place that we could visit, because my in-laws have a second place down the street. So we kind of thought it was like a good community in which to do this. Mm-hmm. We knew other people rented their places around the lake, so we did it. I think we research. I do research stuff, but with big decisions like this, I often make them very quickly. I will dwell over stupid stuff at the grocery store, and be excited to save $3 with a coupon. But some of this real estate stuff, it happens like that. So, we put an offer in, negotiated. Next thing I knew, we owned a second place. And then that kind of started, the level of interest where I saw that real estate was a great way to build a secondary stream of income, build some passive wealth, which isn't always passive, but really start to accelerate net worth.
Yeah, that's really crazy. I really like, kind of what you mentioned about the decision making and stuff. I totally get what you're saying about some of the small stuff, kind of, going back and forth and stuff. But I feel like that's a really, great thing, with the real estate and stuff, to be able to make decisions quick, and not necessarily dig too far deep into it, but just to make a decision quick, and be able to be very decisive.
I think it's important to do a lot of analysis. You have to run your numbers. You have to know the market. You have to know if there's an opportunity here. I saw somebody post Instagram yesterday about, the typical house hack where buy a duplex, live in one unit, the other unit, you'll rent out. I think the numbers were buy it for $2,000, rent the unit out for $1,600. Now your rent's for $400, and then move out a year later, and now you're renting out both sides of it for $3,000, and your cash flow is $1,000. And I'm like, no, it's actually not that simple. That's actually kind of the wrong information, because now you have to factor in everything else. You have to factor in vacancy. You have to factor in CapEx, repairs, all that stuff, and your cash flow is out. Is afterward. It's not your cash flow is X, and all those things come out of there. But if you run your numbers and you know your market, then you can make fast decisions. Where we live right now, so we still live in Southie. We live in City Point now, which is the other side of South Boston, and is right by Castle Island. And I was literally driving by this building, 2013, drove by it. I'm like, oh, look at those. I'm like, I kind of need some more space. I was sick of parking on the street after 10 years. Let's go look at that. Set up a showing, looked at it. I said, these aren't on the market yet. I want that one right there. I want the top floor. Here's what I'm going to offer. We negotiated. We got it. Literally, it all came together just like that. Same thing happened with the place in New Hampshire. Same thing happened with our other short-term rental, which is in Provincetown. We were looking and looking and looking and looking and looking. And then we went down to visit a bunch of places, didn't find the right thing. And then one day, we were actually going to a softball tournament, and I saw the listing pop on. And I was like, I think this is the one. So, I had Rory check it out online, reach out to the broker. It was on Cape Cod's MLS, which is different from the Boston MLS. So there's a bunch of notes that weren't available, on the, publicly available listings that you see on Zillow and Redfin and that kind of thing. And, we let the other broker kind of give us that information throughout the day as we were playing. We looked at it that night. We put an offer in the next day, sight unseen. with some protections inside, in case I need to back out. Like literally, like he's an attorney also, so like he knows what to put in there to be able to back out of stuff. So not even your $1,000 is in jeopardy. But we went down the next weekend with the inspector and checked the place out. Everything checked out, and then next thing you know, we have a second one now, which they all came together really quick. And I got to tell you, like just like you probably analyze deals all the time, right?
Yep.
I mean, and you're analyzing far more deals than you're even putting offers in on, because that's what everyone does. And even in a market where there's a ton of inventory, which there is not right now, but like let's say there was, you still want to analyze and get the right deals. And if kind of what the numbers are that work, when you see it, you should be able to move. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened. That's what happened with our current place that we own. It kind of happened with New Hampshire. It definitely happened with Provincetown. And yeah, I mean, like there's a couple other things we could talk about, some of the investments that I have, throughout this podcast, but a lot of them were quick decisions just because you kind of did your homework in advance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, just doing the homework, about your market and like, properties that are very similar, like going through the motions and stuff before. I mean, you already, probably have like a rough idea once something comes up, like, oh, is this something that would be in my wheelhouse? That could be potentially worth putting an offer in on. And like, you already kind of have the ability to make that decision and just, pull the trigger on it and kind of act really fast.
Yeah, and now I could do that in the markets where we're operating right now. Like I'll look at other stuff that pops on in Provincetown, and I'm like, you can't make any money with that one. Can't make money with that one. Like most of the things right now you can't make any money with, even short-term vacation rentals, just because the numbers are too high. Like that market's a little off the table. So, but I'd love to do a second place there, but I'm not sure that's where I'd put my next dollar. Like if I were to invest in another one, it might not be right there right now because things have gotten really hot, and the vacation rental market is still really good there. We had a surprisingly good year even through COVID last year, and 2021's gotten off to a really good start with a lot of people just looking to get away. But that town it's a party town, right? I mean, it's a beautiful town, but you need everything to be open for it to really shine,
flourish. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was definitely going to ask at some point, about how like COVID, kind of impacted you guys, with the short-term rentals. I know you said it goes surprisingly well. So if you could.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster though. So, here it is, people are listening to this podcast at various points throughout the year. So, hopefully when you're listening to this, whoever you are, we're all vaccinated and things are going back to kind of what the normal is that we remember. But I bet you that you're probably listening to it where that hasn't happened just yet. So, last March, we actually were afraid there was going to be kind of a really big lockdown here in Mass. Like we didn't know. We're only watching, we watch The Purge on TV and we, see the news and we're like, all right, they're going to shut the borders. Like, they're going to freeze all of our, credit accounts, so like, I went into like survival mode. They're gonna lay us all off from our jobs and everything. So I went to survival mode. Like we pulled money out of our HELOCs to have cash, literally cash. Just do it. I was like, I don't care if I'm paying interest on this for a few months. I want to have cash just in case it weren't happening at work or if I just need some money. Yeah. We packed up and took off and went up to New Hampshire shortly after St. Patrick's Day. In 2020, and we did not have renters for a couple months. Like I think that my last renter left New Hampshire in early March, and usually like March, April is a quiet season up there anyway. Like we kind of call it the mud season because everything's kind of muddy. The snow's starting to melt. Yeah. So so we didn't have to cancel anybody, and we just went up there and we lived there for 3 months. We came back to Boston every so often just to kind of check on the plants and, change the pace. Like we're going to pop in the office every so often, but like we were up there for 3 months. Daycare was closed. It didn't have renters. We wanted more space to stretch out. So, it was good that we had it because it's a livable, I mean, it's a 2,000 square foot cape up on the lake. So there's plenty of room. But I was looking at my rental calendar and it was getting scary because I was getting cancellations left and right. But it wasn't just the cancellations. It was, I didn't know if we were going to be able to rent it. Like, if you remember in Maine, Maine was basically not allowing people in the state to stay overnight in hotels and short-term rentals unless you were from somewhere else in Maine or a couple other places. So I actually have a friend who, they bought a place in Agunquit, and this past year was the first one that they were going to be doing vacation rentals. And I actually haven't asked him how he did, but I don't think he was able to rent it that much just because of the restrictions.
Yeah.
So, and you have to follow the local ordinances. I mean, like, some of these communities give licenses out. Like, we're licensed in New Hampshire. I have a license in P-Town. They could always pull the licenses. So, like, you kind of want to be really above the line there. But we had a lot of cancellations. So I was like, geez, like, I got a bunch of mortgage payments to make and I need to figure out a way to fill the place up. So we just waited a little bit longer. Like, as things went on, I started to get more inquiries. We ended up getting an inquiry in May for the Cape, and I took it, and I don't think I was allowed to actually at the time. Like, I think there was still some ordinances. So I think there were some people from the town or other neighbors that might have noticed that the place was for sale. I got a phone call from the town of Provincetown asking. So, people tend to tell on each other sometimes. But I get it. I totally get it. Everyone was afraid. And they still should be, and they are afraid. I mean, COVID's been terrible. But with that said, we started to get bookings again when it was safe to travel again. And then we started to get a lot of bookings. And I was really flexible with the pricing too. Like, I adjusted the pricing to the point that I wanted to get things filled up more than I might have. Like, I certainly didn't drop it by huge percentages, but I was taking deals. Like, if people were asking, hey, can I get a discount on this? Or if I stay longer, can I do this? I was considering them all. And I was very flexible with the pricing through the summer because I just wanted to really start getting some bookings. We ended up taking a booking in, let me think, daycare reopened in July. We took a booking for last June in New Hampshire for the whole month. And that kind of got us to come back to Boston, because I got someone reach out to me and say, hey, listen, look, we need to get out of New York City. Your place looks great. We could do some remote learning and everything. Can I rent it for the month? Here's kind of what I'm willing to pay. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So I kind of got some things back on the calendar. Like, I had full calendars booked. I mean, January, February, like, I had the full summer booked in Provincetown. Like, it was like great. And then it literally all canceled. So I had to rebook everything. But, that's where VRBO and Airbnb are great, because, they are the marketing engines behind getting your place booked. And, I was just paying attention to pricing, to demand, travel restrictions. Things started opening up a little bit more. And we just started taking bookings. So things started to book up again through the summer. Once we left New Hampshire, came back to Boston, daycare opened like a month later. So, like, we were just here in the condo, being daddies, and I try to do our jobs and get our places rented as well. But it filled up to the point that the fall also filled up, and the fall does really well in New Hampshire. Provincetown, it does well too. Provincetown probably is good until like early December. Like, there's a weekend called Holly Folly, which is in early December, and things are pretty steady through then in a typical year. And this year was no different. Like, even though a lot of the events were not happening, the parties around town and what have you, they all got canceled, but people still wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So, we just made sure everything was clean, disinfected, in between guests, and we got things booked up for the rest of the year. The final numbers, New Hampshire, I think, was ahead of where we were in 2019. Provincetown was behind, but it was only off by like 15%, which is good. And then this year, like, things have been crazy. Like, Q1, I think, is like double my Q1 from last year when I add the two together, in terms of gross revenue. And, it doesn't all materialize in terms of net because you're paying for more cleanings and that kind of thing. You're paying for more utilities because more are being used. But the gross rentals were about twice as much for this current quarter that we're in right now. The rest of the calendar has booked at a rate quicker than it has in a usual year. So I'm going back to 2019 as a typical year.
Yeah.
So, I'm really optimistic this year is going to be good again. I think a lot of people just needed drivable vacations. Like people aren't going to Disney World. They're not going to California. They're not, going to the Caribbean. You can't leave the country in many situations. I mean, like we did a trip last fall where we rented an Airstream office, a service kind of like Airbnb that rents trailers.
Mm-hmm.
And we drove to New York and went all throughout upstate New York for just over a week and stayed at campsites. And, it was like perfect fall foliage. And we went to a bunch of places. I'm from New York originally, but everything upstate and Western New York, is just a world away from just outside New York City, which is where I'm from. So it was almost a new destination for me. Actually, everywhere that we went, I'd never been to before in my whole life. And, we saw campgrounds that were pretty busy. We know that people were just doing socially distant vacations with their families. And that's why I think Airbnb and VRBO and the short-term rentals ended up having a blockbuster year once things reopened, because people just couldn't go to the typical places that they wanted to vacation. And then you add on top of that, people want to get out of the house and they want to remain safe and stay within their family unit. So they need a little bit more space to spread out. You're not going to a hotel that you're sharing common hallways and breakfast areas with other people. You're bringing your family unit to another place and you're having your vacation there. And, it ended up actually working out really well that we had the two places that we could offer up for short-term vacation rentals. And I don't think that's going to change anytime in the near future. I mean, I kept saying, I even think I told this to you, like if I had 3 more places in New Hampshire last year ready to go, like they all would have booked up. Like the demand was there. It just was. So this year I raised my rates.
That's definitely, one heck of a roller coaster. It sounds like you guys kind of went on, and it's really interesting to see, now kind of like people's mentalities of, just like you said, like just staying together as like a family unit and going to certain places and, starting to rent stuff out again, like within the state, and like, just going to the beach or, that's definitely, really interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see, what happens, hopefully as things start to kind of die down a little bit, if it's going to keep that momentum and keep going.
Yeah. And I got to say, we kind of fell into the short-term rental space. I mean, we only have the 2.
Yeah.
And I do it all the wrong way. Like I manage everything myself. We're not paying a property manager for anything. Like I'm very hands-on with, I hire out cleaners.
Yeah.
So cleaning companies, clean in between guests. But, I did the cleanings myself before we got them going because I wanted to see what the process was like, just to be like, let me clean it so I can explain it to somebody. So we did that a couple of times. And every so often we'll still do the cleaning. Like if I can't get somebody that can do it, I'll charge the fee and I'll do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
In most situations, the cleanings are not that bad. I mean, I've also found that in many years of doing this, that the guests, every so often you get like a bad apple, or you'll get something that just didn't work out correctly. But for the most part, the guests kind of treat it like their own home. And sometimes you'll walk into it after, like I've walked into places that my cleaner didn't clean, and you think that they did. Like everything was like in order. Maybe you just have to do the laundry. That's about it. Which obviously I clean everything, but it looks like you didn't need to do anything. But I think that we fell into it, and I like doing it. I'm not sure how many more I can manage myself. So that's when I have to start to kind of build up systems to have other people manage this stuff, which is what any investor will tell you. Like they're going to say, work, on your business, not for it. But But right now I'm okay with the two. Like if I were to go to 3 and 4, I might start to have to get a little bit of help. But what's great about the space is a couple things. I mean, like just, with real estate, you could earn wealth multiple ways, right? There could be cash flow, or should be if you're renting it out correctly, if it's a good deal. The properties should appreciate in value. You should have tax benefits. You can depreciate a lot of stuff, right? So like if you're depreciating over time, then you could also cancel out a lot of the income that's coming in. Not to say don't pay taxes, obviously, we pay the taxes that we're required to pay. But we certainly depreciate. You can't depreciate land, but you can appreciate the property. And if you're utilizing it for for the benefit of a short-term rental, then you might as well, like, new improvements to the property, anything else is depreciable. It comes right. It kind of offsets a lot of the income that comes in. And we also, since we file as a couple, since Rory is a real estate professional, he's allowed to write a lot of that stuff off immediately, like instead of depreciating it. So I don't know. Don't quote me on the tax law. But it's more than just the money coming in. I think that is the big benefit. Plus you're paying down your principal on your loan. So like I take a look back before we had the vacation rental in New Hampshire, and I look now and I'm like, whoa, there's like a big delta with net worth because of all that stuff. I mean, like many years of paying down a principal on a loan adds up. Years of income coming in adds up and allows you to do more stuff with that money. And then just the tax benefits of being able to have these types of investments playing correctly within the tax laws, but not having to realize, like pay taxes on all the income that comes in, because there's other ways you could offset it. I think it's been like a no-brainer for this whole period of time.
Yeah, that's extremely interesting. Now, just out of curiosity, because I don't know pretty much anything about short-term rentals, when everything, started to kind of like shut down and get mandated and stuff, how did like the cleaning kind of go? Like, was there like rules for that, like set by the state?
There were, some of the municipalities, and I only know the ones that we operate in. There was a lot of guidance given by the platforms. So I keep saying Airbnb and VRBO and they want to call it VRBO is what I always said, but I guess they switched their name and branding to VRBO. They were, when you log into the dashboards, like you see tons of messaging about COVID and cleaning, and they offered up lots of discounts to companies that you could buy toiletries and cleaning supplies directly from. So they were giving a lot of guidance, and they were actually recommending additional levels of cleaning, and then putting it in the property listing that you were doing those additional cleanings. So there's that. There's the conversations you have with your cleaners, just kind of going over some additional protocols and whatnot with things that you'd want them to do with the properties. We don't have like people getting there every night. I mean, I know there are some people that do short-term rentals where they're renting it by the night or by every 2 nights. We don't do that. I mean, the minimums, I have 2-night minimums in the off season. I think I switched that to 3 for Provincetown this year, and I've been getting a lot of 3-nighters. In the summer, it's 5 in New Hampshire and then 7 in Provincetown. And then if there's gaps in the calendar, I'll play with the calendar a little bit. But it's not like we have a different person in there every single day. So, I mean, that certainly also helps. I have, plenty of cleaning supplies that are available for the guests to use. So I kind of leave a lot of stuff out. Not everything. Like I don't leave, all of my extra supplies out, but like I leave a lot of stuff in the cabinets. I don't think people steal anything. There's hand sanitizer at both places that I bought that, is still there because I bought big jugs of them. And strangely enough, the hoarder in me, before all of this happened, had a ton of supplies. I'm a huge fan of BJ's Wholesale Club. Like, I love BJ's Wholesale Club. And having a baby, she's 2 now. Like, sometimes it's tough, like to do anything. You can't just run into the store with a baby in the car. Like, so you're driving through a lot of drive-through places. Whenever I had the chance to go resupply, I would just spend a lot of money resupplying. I mean, like, I'd run out of BJ's with $500, $600 bills because I'm paying for stuff that is going to be used over time and is not going to go bad. Garbage bags, Bounty towels, toilet paper, cleaners, all that stuff. I think when the shutdown happened and nobody could find toilet paper or like Clorox wipes or whatever those those disposable Lysol wipes and everything.
Yep.
I think among our 3 places, including where I live, I think I owned about 160 rolls of toilet paper, and I think I owned about 60 canisters, big canisters of Lysol wipes. I just happened to have them because they were at all the places and they were locked away in the owner's closet and what have you, because again, they're not going to go bad. So I didn't know all that was coming. Like, I just kind of always had that on hand. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of lucky going into, the big lack of supplies. But, we leave it available for everybody. Like, we try to be super accommodating with the guests. If they want to use our detergent and fabric softener that's out, they could use it. If they want to use our Windex, they could use it. I mean, it's a home. It's their home while they're renting it. They're not going to take anything. If they take anything, I'll know it, but they don't.
That's not bad at all, though. It sounds like you guys kind of lucked out like bandits, with just having things on hand and, when everything kind of went down.
Yeah, and then Lysol wipes became impossible to find. Like, I literally we used them all. Everything got used at all of our places. And they're still kind of tough to find. Like, every so often I'll pop into, like, Market Basket tends to have them, but there's still a limit of 1 per customer. So I always buy one when I go into Market Basket. At least I get 1 extra one.
Exactly. One's better than none.
It certainly is.
But yeah, that's awesome. Wow. So to kind of stem off that, what's kind of like your drive and your vision, for your rentals and stuff? Like, do you want to, are you looking to scale or, just kind of like keep maintaining the ones that you have, or what's kind of your strategy?
I set a goal a couple years ago of doing 1 deal a year for 10 in a row, just to see if I can get 10 things, under my belt. And I did 1 in 2016, 1 in 2017. I did 1 in 8. I did like 1 in 16, 17, 18. And then I did like a bunch in 19. And then I did nothing last year. And I'm so bummed out like that. I don't have anything new from 2020. Like, I think 16, we did the house in New Hampshire. 17, we bought the land across the street from our property, which is another buildable lot. 18, we did Provincetown. 19, we did another lot, the land that abuts the land that I bought in 2017, and we merged the 2 lots. The town of Farmington put a lot up for sale. They put like 7 lots in our community up for sale. They were like tax taken, so we bought one and merged it in. So like the land we have, if we build on it, is larger now. And that same year, I did 2 syndication deals. I think that was in 19. And then we bought a commercial condo in 19. So like where Rory, my husband's Rory Gill, he owns Next Home Titletown Real Estate, which is a affiliate of Next Home. It's a national brand here in Boston. And it's right on A Street in South Boston. So there was a new building that went up just steps away from the Broadway T-stop and near Fort Point. And he was looking for new space. He moved out from where he was operating, which was a WeWork location on Melcher Street in Fort Point. And we were just looking for space and didn't see any rentals that we liked. There was 1 rental that we almost got, but I think I mentioned to you, like the agent, I feel like he played us and he basically wanted to get a second offer so he could get his, first clients, to actually move forward with them wanting in the space. And that's exactly what he did. And I'll never forget it. But it helped us because now we bought this great commercial condo in this brand new building on A Street, and the whole corridor is it's on fire. I mean, like there's just life sciences buildings going up there. I just saw this huge proposal for all this great new outdoor space that they're doing in Fort Point right down the street. So I think that's actually going to be a sleeper hit, like that one commercial condo, because it's not too big either. It's like 600 square feet. So like it's a perfect little size for an office, and it's great visibility. But we did that in 19 also. So even though I didn't do anything last year, I'm going to blame it on the pandemic and just the craziness of a new baby and the fact that I did a few things in 19. I did like 3 or 4 in 19. So I think the goal is still to continue on that path of like 1 a year for the next, I guess now 5 years, whatever that looks like. I think I probably have. Right now, I'm working on a construction loan for the land that we have up in New Hampshire. Yep. It's going a little slowly to kind of get some of the ducks in a row for the actual project. The financing is fine, but finding builders these days is hard. So there's that, and then that might be it that I can qualify for before things start getting down the commercial for commercial loans. But that's okay, because once you kind of go into the commercial loans, they're valuing property based on, I believe it's all valued on like the rentals of, the rental income instead of like what you could qualify for with your W-2 income, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't
Not
know.
an expert, not a real estate guy.
I'm the same way. I don't know too much about commercial, but I think it's focused more on like the capitalization rate and like more on the actual like piece of property itself rather than kind of like the individual. But again, same thing. No expert.
I think the good news also with me, if I do go down that route, is that I have a number of years now of rental income that and a track record of showing that I can be a landlord, even though it's a short-term rental landlord. As far as I know, it still counts. And I know that lenders will look to that and say, well, have you ever done this before? So at least I have that going. So we'll see. I mean, it would be nice to be able to do another couple deals next couple of years. Like by no means am I, I don't have like money burning a hole in my pocket that I have to go do like a, 1031 exchange or I feel bad that I'm not putting any money to use, because everything's kind of working the way it's supposed to work right now. I have some money in the market as well, like the stock market, like retirement money and whatnot, and that's doing great. So I don't know. So we'll see next couple of years. I'd like to take on another couple projects. We have looked at multis in some communities on the North Shore. Haven't found the right deal yet. So we'll see what the next ones are.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely doesn't help, with the market and stuff now, the extremely limited inventory. And I see it too, going to see properties and stuff. Like the volume is so limited. Mm-hmm. And obviously, that's causing, all the buyers out there to pretty much fight over the very limited inventory.
Right, right. And not even fight over the scraps, because it's good inventory, but there's just very little of it. You're having, everything is in the suburbs is a bidding war right now, and people are, putting offers in 10% above asking and not getting them.
Yep, exactly. It's crazy. Hopefully things start to kind of, equal out, in the coming months, but who knows?
Yeah, it's, interest rates are super low right now, so people can afford more. Jobs are coming back in many industries. Many never lost, jobs. I mean, I know some industries were devastated, like, anything with the service industry, entertainment, restaurants. I mean, it's still bad. But, Boston's pretty diversified, and I think there's still a lot of people around here that can afford, and life goes on. I mean, people still get married and have babies, right? And and they still need more space. So, I think that's continuing, not the problem, but there's a huge cohort of people that are entering, first time home buyer primary years, more than it's been in decades. So I think you're going to see a lot more competition because there's a lot more people out there physically that want to stop renting, that want to move on with their lives, that want to be able to get married and have kids and have a little bit bigger space. So, this is going to be a bit of a crazy year, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely going to be very interesting.
Yeah. So we don't need to do anything. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't need to do anything rash if the conditions aren't right.
Yep.
But who knows? Maybe we'll look back 4 or 5 years and say, "Oh man, it was so cheap in 2021."
But hey, who knows? I mean, things obviously are working, and it's fantastic that you're not kind of like pushed to do something, I guess you could say. Things are kind of doing their thing and running and.
And I think that that's kind of very contrary to what a lot of people in this space might think. I mean, I'm in my 40s, so you're a lot younger. Like, you have a couple more decades of accumulation right now, and I never thought I'd reach the age of saying, "Well, I wish I did this when I was your age," but like, I'm at it, and things are fine right now. But
yeah,
I always tell people, like, one of your questions that you'll probably get to, but I'll spoil the fun, was what's the best piece of advice to new investors wanting to start and manage their rental portfolio?
Yep.
And I work with some of my coworkers at like my full-time for their first place. They know that I have some investments myself. They know that I'm interested in the space, so they always ask me questions. And they know about Rory, so like, they know that I'm knowledgeable. I always recommend getting a multi, like, to everybody. I'm like, go find a duplex if you can. Like, if I could have done it over, I would do that, like, this second. Like, I'm not going to do it right now because I'm further in my life and quite frankly don't need to. But if I was in my 20s and I was buying my first place, that's what you do. And then you move a year later and you move a year later and you keep doing that. And that's how a lot of people have built the portfolios over the past like decade, in between when we had the last downturn and now, and they did it the right way. And I still think it's the right way to do it. So some people listen to me, some people, they still have their dream of the big single family home as their first place. So I'm like, all right, well, fine. You do you, but wealth building, I think that's one thing that I would do a little differently. But I don't need to accumulate the most anything. Like, there's always going to be another deal. Like, if you don't get this one, there's going to be another one. And I only need enough to be happy. I don't know if people like get tripped up on wanting more and more and more, but like, I'm not looking to build up this massive portfolio and then have a staff of people working for us and like then go wrap it up and sell it to somebody for millions. I mean, like, I want enough to be able to live happily, but anything excess I don't need. So I don't worry about it. Like, if the timing and the deal is right, great. If it adds into the portfolio that we have smartly, then I'll do it. But we're not going to just do these deals just to get deals under our belt that are bad deals, because then they just become a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly.
And time is so precious. Like, it's so cliche, but like, I don't have any time. Like, I don't know how people with multiple kids do it. I just don't. But there's an agent that works for Rory, great guy, number of kids. I don't know how they do it. Like, it's tough. Like, I don't know how it's tough with the one child.
Yeah.
To do a full-time gig and then do this real estate on the side and help him with his business and raise a baby. Like, it's kind of a lot. So that's why I don't need to accumulate as many properties as I can. I just, when I'm ready for another one, I just go get another one.
Yep. I feel like that's wicked valuable, just kind of stemming back to like, how much is going to make me happy, rather than just, getting as many as you can. And like, for some people that's great, for others, they're completely content with having, just a couple and, still being able to harness like most of their time, and like be with their family and everything. And I feel like that's it at the end of the day is, like, what's going to make you happy,
Yeah. I think it has to do with, just stage in life. I mean, I've always said going through your 20s is a lot of different stages of life. Like, for a lot of people, it's, their early college years, they're just after college years, in their first real job, and then their second real job, and their third real job, and kind of like maybe a real relationship. And then maybe they get married or not. I mean, around here, people get married later, like in their 30s. But, and then people want to live. Like, you want to have a great social life, through your 20s. You want to go to the gym. You want to go to the juice bar. You want to do all the fancy stuff that we see on Instagram. If people want to live their lives, they should. But they should also, I think, all the setup that you guys do that people do in their 20s, like really puts you on the right page in the subsequent decades. So, if there's a way for some people to, to hear this, if you are in your early to mid 20s listening, and if you're able to get that first and second and third place, what you're doing is you're doing it before you get married and before you have that child. And then you could still live in one of these places, during the first couple of years of, raising your baby or your first baby, if you're going to have 2 or 3. Yeah. But once you move out to that, larger single family home, wherever it is, which a lot of people do, you'll have all this stuff in your portfolio already. Like right now, I'm not going to go do that because it's just later in life. Yep. But I mean, you hear it on all the podcasts. I mean, like Bigger Pockets, they talk about it all the time. It works. It really does.
Yeah, definitely. I'm totally going to make that a highlight clip. That advice. It's so true.
As I say, not as I do.
Yeah, and it's just a common thing, that a lot of people, that I've kind of talked to say as well, to just kind of like focus on setting everything up, and then, you'll be able to kind of do maybe the things that you actually kind of want to do. You know what I mean? And it's definitely very true.
But I will say the short-term rentals, they mostly are fun. It's like, it's an interest. Like I like to do what I'm doing with them. There absolutely have been times, not in the not so distant past, that I've been like, I'm done with this. This sucks. I'm going to sell the place. Like, we had a couple things happen in Provincetown last year where our most of the living area is below grade. Because it's a 4-unit condo building, and our place happens to be, I call it the runt unit. It's the smallest unit of the building, and the bathroom's downstairs. The toilet and the bathtub, everything pumps up, right? Because it's below grade, so you got to pump everything out into the septic. We're actually not even on the sewer system in Provincetown, which there are some places on the sewer system, some have septic. So I learned a lot about the tank that was beneath the toilet, and I had a tank that was just old. Like the company that made it went out of business, and it just leaked. And sometimes it would leak out, and guests would say something like, it would just kind of creep. Water finds its way out, right? Water will find the easiest way out. Yeah. It would find its way out from underneath the console sink that we had in the bathroom, and we couldn't figure out what the heck it was. Like for the longest time, we thought it was, from the shower. And as it turned out, we had to rip up the whole bathroom to figure out what it was. But I got all that replaced. It's money. It sucks, but it's money. It's like, they're just, in my mind, they're just numbers in an account.
Yep.
They go up and down. Hopefully they go up. But we got it all fixed. I was more stressed out by like the experience that I was supplying for people, and I was giving credits whenever it just got really sucky. But we got through it. People understood. And then like just when everything is all set, like another issue popped up where it's like the sump pump in the common area, the battery was draining, for example, and like it would beep. So when people were sleeping downstairs, they'd hear this battery and a sump pump beeping. And the only way to get it to stop beeping was to take the terminals off of it and then figure out what was going on. And like, it's little frustrations like that, the other part of me says, this is why you need to have people managing properties. And those things would just get me, because like, I remember getting like another thing happened. Like, the cable went out, or the internet went out in Provincetown, and I had nothing to do with it. It was some idiots that came to repair a different unit in the building, and they disconnected the internet to our unit instead, because they had all the wires tripped up. So instead, my guests had no internet, and all my TV down there was based on internet. So I'm like, this just stinks. Like, and these kind of things happen at like 10 o'clock at night when you're trying to put the baby to bed, and like you're just, a couple glasses of wine into the evening, and you just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
But it's part of the gig. It's frustrating when it happens, but when it doesn't happen, it's all good. And knock wood, things since then have been fine. Like, it all gets fixed. You just kind of hope that people don't give you a bad review. And the easy way to try to get them not to do that is either don't encourage them to give you a review, or, you give credits, like, hey, I'll give you a free night. I'll pay for your cleaning fee. I'll do this. That kind of stuff happens. But I'm very cognizant of the customer experience. And I think, one thing that I've learned just from working for so long, like I've worked in sales jobs for quite some time, is that, the relationships are super important, and you just don't want to damage those, especially when they could leave you a scathing review. That will affect future bookings. So I try to over communicate with people. All of my, I don't call them instructions. I call it helpful information, because I think instruction sounds like, here's the things that you have to do at my house. Yeah. Helpful information is like, here's some helpful things that will help out, Yeah. So, all the helpful information is super detailed, like, probably way too much, but like many people have commented saying how much they appreciated how much information I gave them. It's easy to get a hold of me. If you're renting a place, if you're there, I'll respond to anything, whether it's a message on Airbnb or by text. And you put the effort into it. Like, and I think that people appreciate the effort, even if like the outcome isn't exactly what they wanted. You just kind of have to deal with it. Like, ignoring it's even worse.
Yeah, definitely. It's, definitely, I've heard that from a couple other people, like just like how important it is to take care of, your customer, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Or your tenant, whatever the situation is. And
both, actually. I mean,
yeah,
your customer and your tenant. Yeah.
Yep. And just like how valuable that really is. Like, there was another guy that I interviewed a couple episodes ago where there was like a sewer pipe or something that went. I forget exactly what the situation was, but like he kind of went out of his way to, give the current tenants of that unit, like a hotel room and everything, and like make sure they were extremely taken care of. And they were kind of blown away, with the situation that had happened and how we reacted to it and everything. And, just like so like customer focused and people focused, because that's what it is at the end of the day, right? Is people that run all these operations, I mean.
Yeah. And it's not just that, it's the people that actually you need that are on the ground, that, are repair people. I mean, we do actually have a property management company in Provincetown that does help with the building, and actually I have a direct connection to them as well, because as paying into the condo association, I'm entitled to use them for services, and any repairs and stuff that like you need like last minute, I could just call them, and then they mark it up by I think like 15%, like, as part of the management fee, which is totally reasonable.
Yeah.
But you need people on the ground. Like that situation where the sump pump's backup battery was beeping. I think I ended up like comping the guests like $100 that night or something. Like I was like, why don't you guys go out and grab a dinner or something on me, and I'll get this, taken care of in the morning. And property management sent somebody over there 9:30 the next morning with a wrench, and they undid it. And, I would not ask a guest to go take a look at a battery of a sump pump and just say, okay, it's just this wrench, just take those things off it. Like I think that is a bit much.
Yeah.
Some people like to be troubleshooting, like they like to try to help figure it out because they want to be handy. But, I don't want someone to do the wrong thing, unplug the wrong thing, get zapped in electricity. I mean, obviously there's liability involved. So, as long as I try to solve it as quickly as possible and give them a little compensation, I think the way I see it is like, if I give $100 back on a rental, I just made $100 less instead of I gave them $100. But it's still $100, which I'd rather have in my pocket. But, again, they're numbers. They're numbers in an account. They go up and down.
Yep. That's all it is,
Mm-hmm.
That's a really great way of looking at it. That's very interesting.
If I have more numbers, then I could buy more things, but I don't need to buy tons of things. Like I'll buy things when I want to buy things. And if I have enough numbers to do it, then I'll go do it.
All right, guys, that concludes our Creating Wealth podcast episode for today. I want to thank every single person that has listened this far. It really means a lot to know that people can learn from me and with me as we build wealth together. Hopefully you can take home at least one thing from this podcast that will improve your life just a little bit. If you could, please check me out on social. That's at Kyle Curtin Real Estate on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm on Bigger Pockets. Until next time, let's build together.